In essence, what we are saying to ourselves at the University of Self is that we want to spend some time thinking, meditating, looking at and being open to what is the most important thing to us, what really, really matters to us. It's important at the outset to take some time with this, being mindfully meditative, which is to say, clearing the mind and allowing the mind to be still and ask into that stillness to know what deep within you is the most important thing to you in the life that you're living, and therefore what it is that you will seek to manifest, bring into realization, which is to say, within your own sense of reality. And if I am not prepared to follow the necessary and available paths that would lead me in the direction of increasingly bringing about that reality, then to ask myself why, and be honest about that. Now, one possible answer, one possible response to that idea might be, you must be joking. What a crazy idea. The idea that I will point my compass and seek to follow what I want. And foremost, of course, is the idea of how selfish is that? How egotistical, self-centred and selfish is that? To seek to do what you want always. Well, let's accept this as a fair and reasonable question, and formulate the question as it's being asked, so that we can mutually come to a clear answer. Essentially, the idea that is being posited is doing what I want means that I am being selfish, and therefore, if I seek to do what I want to the exclusion of everything else, then I will be just about as selfish as you can get. Now, notice that there needs to be a curiosity here to avoid the assertion that, in actuality, that is true, and that doing what I want is selfish. There is a certain presumption there which needs to be moved beyond by formulating it for what it is, which is to say a question. The question being, if I do all the time and follow the paths that lead me to what I want, is that being selfish? This is a much better phrasing for a University of Self student who is open-minded to experiencing a truth that may be beyond their current understanding and knowing, which is to say, being ready at the right times to be helpfully cynical, which is to say, being prepared to not just accept and be gullible and accept any old truth, and sarcastic in some way as to the possibility of an idea hitherto unexperienced. A certain kind of open-minded, open-heartedness to go beyond one's normal boundaries of knowing and understanding in order to test out and inquire as to another realm of understanding. This we might refer to as an open-hearted lovingness of the experiences, such that the mind is open and seeking to feel its way towards understanding the best way of understanding a situation and acting from that point of greater clarity, knowing and understanding. This, as you will recall, is an indispensable prerequisite, what we refer to as a sine qua non, to continuing along the path of studentship at the University of Self, which simply means the path of continuing to seek to use all situations in the drama in your service, which is to say, as that which, like a mirror, is helping you to see yourself through your experiences. And whether you wobble a lot, or you feel excessive anxiety and fear when life gets a little bit stormy and seemingly dangerous, seeing if you worry a lot, if you experience guilt a lot, if you experience anger a lot, or frustration, or you feel depressed, or you feel jealous, or you feel joyful and happy, and having a sense of meaning and purpose in all that's going on, and using all that's going on to one's service of greater harmony through clarity of knowledge, seeing what sort of captain I am in the storm, and then being open-minded to learn how to adopt different viewpoints and different understandings to learn and become a better captain. A captain, no less, than a captain of the mind ship. The mind ship that's the boss and determines what the body does, because the body is constantly in service of the mind, the captain of the ship. And the mind is not the ship. The mind intentionalizes activity within the body, and the body seeks to serve that mind by preserving its physical presence in an adaptive way to the physics and biochemistry of the environment of the planet, in inverted commas, that the experiencing mind finds itself on, inverted commas. So, let's look in greater detail at this question. If I only do what I want, am I being selfish? Well, in order to answer any question, we need to be able to define our terms. What do we mean by selfish, first of all? Well, if we agree that we have a self, and we only have ourself, our one self in our experience going on, in this reality of a physical body in a seemingly physical world, then if I notice and observe that and experience it and see it, defining self as that which experiences its own experiences and is able to focus on various aspects of its experiences, then indeed, necessarily, you must have a self, and therefore you must be selfish. You have no other choice than to be selfish. And then, if we revisit the question with the answer that, well, actually, I don't have any other choice than to be selfish, we see that there is some presumption there in the definition of self that selfish is a negative thing. There is a presumption in the question, an implicit presumption, that to do what one wants and be selfish is a negative thing. I mean that being selfish is presumed to be being a negative thing, when in actuality there is no other choice than to be selfish in whatever the self is emphasizing. Whatever that self is emphasizing and choosing it necessarily must be emphasizing and choosing those things because it is believed to be in the service of the only self it has. It must be being emphasized for a reason. And so if the idea is that to be selfish, which is you've got no choice to be, and are always being anyway, is in some way negative, and that in order to be unselfish, with the implicit idea that it's more acceptable, more lovable to be unselfish, the idea will become that in order to be a lovable person, I must always be unselfish, which is defined as doing what other people want and catering to other people's needs. Only in this way can I become acceptable to my family and community. Now, at the University of Self, we're actually saying that's a very dangerous state of mind to be in. Because it's a state of mind which is 180 degrees in the direction of learning about the self by emphasizing the fact that the self is dependent upon behavior and that any truth of oneself, as can be found in one's wants, is to be denied in the acceptance of the belief that to allow that would be to become an unlovable person. So to be curious, we need to inquire of this belief as to its validity by presenting a scenario for the belief to be tested in some way, allowing the belief to be tested, interrogated, with regard to true beliefs and true feelings of the self in the scenario presented. Scenario number 1, well, if I don't go out to work and I sit at home and do what I want, who's going to pay the bills? Well, let's follow that through. What if you do sit at home and you give up your job because it's not a job you want and you like, and it's not consistent with your greatest and highest excitement? What will you be doing at home? Well, if you continue along this line, then you will be seeking to energize yourself along the lines of what you really, really want and what you're most interested in. Now, there may be a secondary aligned belief existing that if you pursue what you're interested in and do what you like to do creatively, then you won't be able to be supported financially. But this question to the University of Self student means that they must, in some sense, experiment and allow themselves to be put in the position of finding out what they want to do and taking every opportunity to move towards that, and find that somehow they are supported. And so an alternative idea, a counter idea to that, might be that in actuality what the soul wants is a sense of abundance in life, and that abundance can be more practically defined, because this is what the mind can do. It can redefine as having what you need when you need something and at the time you need to do it.